At Tim Smith Spirits, we've been doing what we love for generations. Even when forced to do it on the wrong side of the law, we've never stopped. It's in our roots, engraved in our soul. It's our family story. Recipes crafted mountain deep, in the light of the moon, shared down by word of mouth, generation to generation. Making booze on the edge of legality, living true to our rebel heart, driven by our defiant spirit, and rooted in our renegade urge to bring the world the real taste and kick. So break the rules a little, let go, and enjoy this moment with a drink of unpredictable and a taste of unexpected. Tim Smith Spirits and Climax Moonshine. Drink defiance.
Welcome to the Bourbon Life Podcast, your source for all things bourbon. Join your hosts, Mark and Matt, as they drink and review bourbons, share news about upcoming events, interview the who's who in the bourbon world, and, most importantly, bring you along for the fun of living the bourbon life. Now, here's your hosts, Mark and Matt.
All right, everybody, welcome back for another episode of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and, well, not with me as always. My co-host, Matt, is not with me today, unfortunately. Matt's not sick. He's feeling better now, thankfully, but he is actually back home. I'm on location down in beautiful Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. I am live at King's Family Distillery, and I'm with the owners of King's Family. I'm with Justin King and his wife, Cara King. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, glad to have you guys on here. So we appreciate that. I forgot to say, we are the Bourbon Life Podcast presented by Tim Smith Spirits. I always forget that. Anyway, see, when I don't have Matt with me, I always screw up, right? So today is February 1st, so we're recording on February 1st. Dry January is officially over. So I'm drinking. So I'm excited about that. And I haven't even started drinking yet, but I have a feeling this could get rough, maybe. I don't know.
We'll see what we have in store for you.
I was going to say, you guys ready for that? All right. So we got something poured up already, and that's what I usually like to do is just jump right in and talk about what we have poured up first. So if you guys want to share what we're going to be drinking first round, just tell everybody what we have. That'd be great.
So we've got something kind of unique here. I've got an apple brandy that was distilled in Washington, D.C.
All right. Oh, D.C.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then aged for 6 years in used bourbon barrels.
Okay.
And this blend is 2 barrels. One is a sweet apple and one is a sour apple.
Oh, okay. So both were distilled in D.C.
Correct.
Okay. Now, did you do the blending here on site?
I did.
Okay. What proof are we talking about here?
We're at 100 proof on this one.
100 proof. Okay. Great. So, nosing this, that's really get a sweetness on that. Cara, you're looking like, yeah.
I love this. And I'm not really a brandy person, but this is it's really turned my head.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you pick up on the nose on it?
Just bright apple. It's just bright.
Yeah. So it's a combo of sweet, and you said sweet and sour, right? Mm-hmm. Very, very nice. So you did the blending here, right?
We did, yeah.
Okay. What made you decide to do a blend of sweet and sour? Just kind of curious.
Just because each barrel that we got 6 barrels of this originally.
Okay.
Each barrel's a different apple.
Okay.
And so when I pulled samples and we went through and tried these, one apple lends to the other apple. We found that we like the sour apples a lot better, but when you add the sweet apple in it, that's when you get that nose.
Gotcha. Yeah, and it kind of, I don't want to say like a bourbon note, but I guess maybe some of the oak, possibly from the barrel, I think comes through.
Yeah. For sure.
So you kind of pick that up with that little bit of that apple sweetness. So that is a unique. And what was the proof on this one again? 100 proof?
100.
Okay. Yeah. Very, very nice. So, all right. So we got the first drink introduced, and let's jump in and talk about, man, I feel like I'm so out of sync here, guys. I don't know what's going on. It's like I don't have my co-host, Matt. I'm like, anyway.
Fish out of water.
I am,
it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. So let's talk about you guys. Let's talk about your past and how you guys got into the bourbon industry and how it got you to where you are now with King's Family Distillery. So who wants to go first? Cara?
I've been pointed at, so I guess I've been voluntold I'm going first.
There you go.
Well, I entered the whiskey industry in general in 2008. My family has been brokering rye specifically to the bourbon distilleries since the 60s. My grandpa, then my dad did it, and then it was me.
Okay.
Honestly, I was pretty fresh out of college. I was working a day job as just a paper pusher in a cube farm.
Wow.
And, I was asked, hey, do you want to broker rye to the bourbon industry? And it's like, okay, bourbon, travel, also more money. Of course. Yeah. The answer is absolutely yes. So in 2008, that's when I started that part of my career. And I was there for about 10 years. I met Justin in 2013 at a craft distillery trade show and conference in Denver. And he at the time was in his previous role, how he kind of got into the industry itself. But
don't ruin the story for him.
I won't.
Cara.
I won't. He actually told me he was going to marry me the first day he met me, and I was like,
"Dang,
dude!" Like,
yeah.
I was like,
"Wow,
please,
okay,
please." Like that's weird, but
hey,
I mean, he was right, so it's okay. Whatever.
Good call, man. Good call.
But yeah, so anyway, so going through that, I would source rye from anywhere in North America where they grow it. It usually grows best above the I-80 line, preferably the I-90 line, sandy soil, long sun hours during the summer. It's a fall-seeded crop, so you want a lot of snow cover so you don't lose it to freeze. And then I also sourced a bunch of it from Europe just because you just don't grow a lot of rye in the United States. It's not economically, it's not a good choice economically for farmers to do that. So
corn and wheat, I mean, those are going to be
corn, beans, and wheat are the staples, right? Rye is like not even a secondary thought. It's a tertiary thought. People they do it because they've either always done it or their dad always did it or there's a plot of land or they put it in their rotation.
Gotcha.
So I was doing that and I moved to Louisville and I loved living there. But then when Justin and I got married, I came down here and I was working remotely. And after we had our first, our son, I decided, I don't want to be traveling anymore.
Right.
I don't want to be, always on call, which I mean, starting your own business, haha. Oops.
Welcome to the party, right?
Right, exactly. But I wanted to do something different. So we had always toyed with the idea of starting a distillery, and I just kind of looked at him one day and I said, I think it's time we start looking for a still. We start looking for just the different pieces to start piecing it together.
Right.
So that was in 2017. And then a year later, we were open.
Wow. Very cool. So as a rye broker, you're sourcing rye from all over the United States, all over Europe. Did you ever, was that something as a kid you thought, I'm going to grow up and go into the family business and do this? Or was it?
Well, when I was little, I did, but that was just because I wanted to be like a business person and carry a briefcase. You're 7 years old. You're like, wow, that looks cool.
Yeah, I'm important. Yeah, I'm an important person, right?
But no, I definitely did not think I would be going into commodities market. Like my major in college was liberal arts.
Oh yeah.
Just super general. Like I love reading. I love history. I love all that kind of stuff. I love cultural studies. That's kind of what my major was. So I never in a million years would have thought I would have done what I did. But you take the opportunities that are presented to you when they're right. So
sure. And obviously it led to the bigger and better things.
For sure.
It's
for
funny how that seems to work out, right?
Yeah.
Justin, what about you, man?
I was kind of different than Cara. 180 degrees. So I grew up here.
Yeah.
Actually grew up on this road right here.
And here being Pigeon Forge.
Pigeon Forge.
So you grew up on upper Middle Creek Road.
Yep. And spent very little time in high school. Spent a little time in college. And just I always played with the alcohol.
Yeah.
Growing up, we made a lot of illegal alcohol.
I played with alcohol too, but I usually just drink it. I didn't make it.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of a source of income for us. But,
I gotcha. Yeah.
Anyway, I got into that and kind of got out in the real world and was working a concrete job doing engineering work. And I got a phone call to come and run a little company called Old Smoky.
A little company, yeah.
So, well, we
back then it was a little company.
It was a little company, yeah. So, started there in 2010 and was chained to a still every day for about 7 years.
Oh, were you serious? Yeah. You're a master distiller, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
And developed all their products. And,
wow. Okay.
We built that thing for 50 states, 60 countries.
It's huge. I mean, for people that don't know Old Smoky, I mean, if you ever come to Gatlinburg, everybody knows because it's like the first billboard you see as soon as you get off I-40, right? Or anywhere close, anywhere in the region, you're going to see the billboards for Old Smoky. And it is huge. I mean, it's a huge operation now. So that's really cool, man. So how did was it somebody you knew, or was it just connections that you had, or was it?
Just connections growing up.
Okay.
Joe Baker was the original founder with 2 partners. He's
Okay.
just somebody I grew up around.
And he was like, I know this guy.
Yeah, I know this.
He used to do things on the side. So, I mean, honestly, when you were younger, so that was something you actually did. And I mean, your family did? Was that something your family, or was it more you kind of?
It was more of me than my family.
Okay, I got you.
Just, I don't know. I was always interested in it.
Yeah.
And now I get to do it as a professional job, and it's very different. It's very fun.
I mean, that's really awesome, I think. I mean, to be able to be, to say you started doing it for fun, and then obviously making a little bit of money off of it, but for that to lead you to the opportunity to create it's an international brand now. I mean, that's huge, man. That's really cool.
It was a fun ride, and I actually call it my college. That was my college education.
Learning. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because you guys, they do a lot of different stuff. I mean, they do moonshine. What else are they doing? Anything? Well, we don't really need to talk, I guess, about their brand. We're here to talk about you guys, man. Wow. So yeah, but that's still really cool. I don't think I knew that you'd.
Yeah, that's a backstory that a lot of people don't know about me.
Yeah.
And that's what's led to a lot of this and me meeting Cara. I mean, that's really been.
So that's how, because you're at a conference, obviously, and you were there. So
yeah.
And told her the first day that you're going to marry her.
Yeah, and I've also told her that I roped a deer, and I think that's what drove her in.
Yeah, he asked me, hey, have you ever roped a deer? And I looked at him, I'm like, I've never had the opportunity because I grew up in suburban Minneapolis. Like, you couldn't get more cookie cutter, 90s movie than my upbringing.
Yeah.
I mean, we still to this day, I think to myself, 10 years ago, I never thought that I would see a bear eating out of my garbage. You know what I mean? Like, just some of the wild, weird things, down here.
Well, my wife and I actually got married down here, believe it or not.
I love it.
Yeah, her family had come down here since she was about 6 months old. I'm not going to say how old she is now, but she and her family had been coming down here since she was a little kid. I didn't come down here that often at all with my family, but when we started dating and decided to get married, she's like, I think I'd like to get married in Gatlinburg. And I had these visions of like flying Elvises and all this other wild stuff because I just didn't come down here. I didn't know what it was about. But yeah, we found a great little place and ended up getting married. So that's why we love to come down here so much. It's a cool little place. But that's cool that you grew up here. You brought her down here. You roped your deer. Mm-hmm. You brought her down here. So when you went to Louisville, Cara, was that part of work?
Well, and it was 2013. It was right after I had just met Justin, and I had been living in St. Paul, Minnesota, which I love that town 6 months out of the year.
Yeah.
And I was coming down for a sales call with Old Smoky. We had just met, and it was May, and it was snowing, and it was sticking, and I decided then and there, I'm selling my house. I have nothing keeping me here. Yeah. My family had already scattered all over really the world. So it's like, why am I living in a place where it snows in May when I have the choice? You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I miss it. I really do. I miss the people. I miss my hometown. But man, after I launched into Louisville, I have such an appreciation for living in different places too. So, and so I lived there for a little while. But I had also been going back and forth to Louisville and back about every other week for my career because I was meeting with Heaven Hill. I was meeting with Sazerac. I was meeting, exactly. And so, and with our grain elevator was based out of Louisville. So, I was constantly in that office. So it was just silly for me to, as much as I loved living out of a hotel, it was silly for me to stay up north.
Right.
So
you made to Louisville, and then he sweet talked you
a little bit further south. I think I'm going to end up in Barbados at some point, but that's okay.
That's the hope, right?
Yes, exactly.
So let's jump back to the apple brandy. Let's talk about the palate on this one and the finish. What do you guys get in terms of the taste on this?
Every time I smell it, I get something different. Like right now, I'm getting a lot of honeysuckle.
Gotcha. I love the palate. It's so, it's almost like sugary sweet.
Yes.
It's like, but it's not overly sweet. It's not, it's not like you're eating a piece of candy, but man, there's just such a sweetness to it. But then there's it's like almost like a rye spiciness to it. There's a, and I guess maybe from the barrels, or I'm not sure, but do you guys get that kind of a spicy?
I do, and I like it.
Yeah.
And I had never drank much brandy before.
Yeah.
But when I got the samples of these, I drank them all, and I never do that.
It was an accident. We drank like all 6 samples over the course of 2 weeks, just in cocktails. Like, it makes a great old fashioned.
Oh,
it
yeah,
makes,
yeah.
It's just so unique and different, you know? And these were experimental barrels from a distillery that was absorbed by a larger distillery. So these went on the market, and I was just like, well, let's give it a shot, you know? Even though we're not really in a brandy area, brandy isn't exactly,
right,
you know, hot and sexy right now, but this is like...
This is really good.
Yeah, we couldn't not.
Yeah. And it's 100 proof too, so this could be really dangerous. I mean, I could see this being something where you sit and drink it and you're like, oh, I'm going to have another one of those and maybe another one of those. And because it's I hate to use the word smooth as a term to describe whiskey or brandy or anything, but this one, it's a very drinkable, very approachable.
Yes.
Even at 100 proof. I mean, it's crazy how easy this is to drink.
We've got a version that's at 121 proof.
Oh, man.
Some of this stuff was 160 proof out of the barrel.
Seriously?
So,
wow.
It really lends well to the water we added to it.
Uh-huh.
We chose 100 proof here for the store because we don't have a lot of high proof fans here.
Gotcha. Okay.
But the 121 I'll let you try later. And it's awesome.
Twist my arm, you know.
Exactly.
And especially now that dry January is over. We'll do that. So what do you guys want to drink next?
Justin, do you have any suggestions, or do you want me to?
I think we go into the Ryeconic.
The Ryeconic.
All right.
I'm just going to go up in proof is what I'm going to do here.
Well, that makes
Good
sense.
call.
Yeah, we could do that. And I'm good. You know what? we can use the same glasses. It's not going to hurt anything, is it? So we'll be fine. We'll be fine. Look at me trying to talk and pour all at the same time. Now,
It's all
Ryeconic,
good.
I've had this one before, and I've got a bottle at home, and I've got the new Honey Ryeconic that just came out a month or two ago that you guys put out. Now, when we were down here over the summer, that was the Ryeconic Honey was still in the barrel, and you actually pulled a sample out of the barrel for me to taste, and I was like, holy shit, I got to get a bottle of this whenever it comes out. So I was very happy to get that. So tell us about the Ryeconic. What's the story behind this, and what is it?
It's kind of an homage to my history and my family's history in the rye business. This is a 95% MGP rye. We are very, very transparent about sourcing and from whom we source.
Okay.
As long as they are okay with us saying it, we're okay with talking about it.
And that's what some people, I guess, don't understand. Listeners, I mean, when they say, oh, we want transparency, well, in most situations, yeah, you can say who it is, but there are some distilleries that you sign agreements with that you can't say where it comes from, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
correct.
Just so people understand that it's not your choice to say, we're not going to tell you. It's that legally you can't, because some mean attorney like me would show up with a letter.
And that's exactly why I said Washington, D.C. on the brandy. Because, I can't say where it came from.
Okay,
exactly.
Good. Well, I'm glad we clarified. That's good information so people understand sometimes where there's not transparency because legally you can't provide it. So, yeah. So
yes.
Yeah.
So this is a 95% rye, and this particular batch, is this one of the first 6-year-olds that we have? Yeah, 6 years, 1 month. It's 109.1 proof.
Okay.
So all of these Ryeconics are cask strength and single barrel. Almost everything we do is single barrel.
Okay.
Partially because it's fun for us to do.
Sure.
And partially because we don't have any more room than that.
No, that makes sense.
So, but I mean, single barrels are they're fun to work with. Every barrel's different. You can really pick up, they can be night and day different sometimes.
Sure.
But we try to strive for consistency, but we also know that the audience for things like Ryeconic are going to understand it's a single barrel product.
Right.
It is going to vary from barrel to barrel.
Right.
So
it is a single barrel, but it's twice barreled. So it's the same single barrel, but put into a secondary barrel.
So it's 2 new charred white oak barrels.
Okay. So the secondary barrel is actually a new charred. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So which is pretty unique.
Yeah, it is.
So and then the first barrel is approximately 3 years. Second barrel is whenever we bottle it.
Okay.
And then it's just, I get all chocolate on this one.
Really nice. I was gonna say I get some of that spiciness. I'm trying to pick out. I don't pick out like minty because a lot of times with that rye, I'll pick out some mintiness to it, but I don't.
It'll be on the palate.
It'll be on the palate.
It'll be on the palate for sure.
I was gonna say because on the nose, I'm not getting that. Justin, what about you? What do you get on that?
Look at the legs, how long they are on these specifically.
Oh yeah, you can. Yeah, nobody. Unfortunately, our listeners can't see that, but I can just. I can just tell you, man, these are legs. Yeah, legs for days. So that's nice and oily. Nice. So, filtration. Are you guys filtering stuff? Or?
Zero.
Minimally.
Okay.
Well, I mean, not chill filtering, but just to get the char.
Get the char.
Get the chunks so that the chunks don't clog up the system.
Yeah, I get it.
So,
yeah, no problem. I get that, man. Some people like to see that stuff, and that's sometimes the fun thing about like the distilleries where you can pull straight from a barrel and bottle your own, and you end up with these chunks of char. And some people are like, "Ooh, that's really cool." It's like Goldschlager back in the 90s, right? It's like, look, I got chunks of gold, right? But,
yeah, exactly.
But
you know, and we will get some settlement of like a little bit of char
Yeah.
on almost everything that we do that we pull straight from the barrels because we just process it straight from the barrel. We take it out, we put it in the tank, then we bottle it.
Yeah. So the secondary barrel, I mean, that's kind of unique that you're doing a new charred barrel. I mean, so that's got to be is that a little more expensive, I'm assuming, than getting a used barrel?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's more expensive. It's time consuming.
Sure.
The other thing that we do is we proof this down to 110 for the second barrel.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's why you always see these at 108, 109 proof.
Okay.
That's
Gotcha.
part of what Ryeconic is that water that we add.
Okay. So when it comes from it's because this is sourced from MGP, right? Are they barreled at 125? Do they? Or
120.
They do it at 120. Okay. So when you get it, it's going to be right around that still, or do they?
It's somewhere in the 115 range.
Okay. So it does drop a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everything at MGP that I've seen over the years always drops proof.
I got you. So you're not seeing it. They're not going up because some barrels obviously will go up, sometimes improve, but not what they're doing. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff at their warehouses that are 15, 18 years old that are 90 proof.
Really? That's crazy, man.
Just because their storage conditions are so much different than your traditional Kentucky warehouse.
I got you. Okay.
They've got 2 feet of concrete in between each floor.
Oh.
So the 6th floor barrels really don't have the
You're not
heat.
going to have that heat like you do in Kentucky where you're going to get evaporation and get that concentration. And yeah. Okay. That makes sense. I don't think I realized that, man. So that's cool. So you got the barrels. Now these barrels that you're using on the secondary, are they like heavily charred, or are they lightly charred or toasted, or what's the?
So both barrels are number 4 char.
Okay.
The 2 on the heads.
Okay. Gotcha.
Untoasted.
I gotcha. And then you're going in at 110 on the secondary.
Yep.
And then, so you don't proof down. You just take it straight out of the barrel and bottle it. So yeah, back to the nose on this one though. This is man, again, it's almost like a brown sugary toastiness on the nose. I don't know.
If you make a cocktail out of this, it's all chocolate. It tastes like a chocolate old fashioned.
Oh man. Okay. See, I'm still looking for that chocolate. Now that I got it in my head, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm waiting for. I'm like, come on, chocolate. I need you to show up. So, well, I'm going to go in for a taste since we're almost at the end of round 1 here, and go ahead and. Oh yeah, I love the Ryeconic. I mean, this is such a unique product, you know. And I don't know. I'm thinking about other brands because I know like the finished bourbons. Like today, Woodford put out their double oaked. You know, that was today's release.
I saw that this morning.
Of course, I'm down here, not up there. So I've been there the last 3 years to get bottles, and today I missed out. But it seems like most people are doing these double finishes on the bourbons. There's not a lot of ryes that I can think of. Do you know of any, or are there?
There's a few out there.
Are there? Okay.
But there's most of the double barrel finishes are not a new barrel. It's
that's true, right?
Something else.
Something else, right? There's finishing in a wine barrel or some other type of previously used barrel. So
we did a version of this in a 3rd barrel that was toasted.
Oh, okay.
And the local bourbon groups snatched that up, and
I'm sure they did.
Yeah, in like a week, it was gone.
Well, and you did that. You did the Honey Cask Finish too that just came out, which I have a bottle of, which I haven't been able to crack yet, unfortunately. But when I get home, that's definitely gonna be cracked. But yeah, this one on the palate, I didn't pick up that mintiness that I was hoping for. But what do you guys get? Does the chocolate come through on the?
It's just rich, and maybe I do get some chocolate in it. I do.
Yeah.
Remember, everybody's palate is so different.
Yeah.
You know, and just depend. Everybody draws on their own experiences, and there's no. What I've learned to teach people here in the distillery, because I still do a lot of tastings behind the bar, is that there's no wrong answers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
as long as I don't say it's pepperoni pizza, then we're okay, right?
Well, then I'll be like, well, you may need to go to a doctor, but okay. Are you sure you don't have?
You got a problem, man. Yeah.
Exactly.
The other term that we use a lot is barnyard.
Barnyard. Oh, that's
If
bad.
somebody says that, that's no good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I taste old musty barn.
Yeah. If you smell, hay can be
But now hay
one too.
Hay is one of those ones where, because I know Matt sometimes when he drinks rye, my co-host, he'll say, I get a little bit of hay taste to it.
Yep.
Which isn't, I mean, some people may think, oh, that's awful. But then again, it's like, not really. I mean, hay's it's a unique, and as a kid, you used to get hay and put it in your mouth and chew on it and stuff. And it's, it's just one of those things. So
Yeah.
The one thing I get out of this is growing up here, we grew tobacco down through here.
Yeah, right.
And I remember hanging tobacco as like a young kid or helping. I don't know if I was really working. But
Yeah.
That's what this tastes and smells like.
Is hanging up tobacco.
This is fresh tobacco.
Yeah, I can see that. Now you put that in my head, going back in for a sniff, I can pick that up because there's a sweetness to it, and there's I can definitely see that tobacco note in there. So, but the flavor on it, man, it's just so good. And 109 proof again, just like that apple brandy. I mean, this one is this would be a creeper, man. This is one at 109 proof. It's not something that's going to blow your face off. It's not going to melt your teeth or anything like that, right?
It's super drinkable.
Yeah, it is.
I can pour a glass of this at home, for a 5 o'clock pour, and it's just down.
It's easy. Yeah. And there's no bitterness. There's no tannic. Sometimes on double finished, I pick up, I think it's mostly those secondary barrels. If they're used barrels or something, a lot of times I'll get like a tannic finish. It dries out a little bit. There's nothing like that on this at all. It's a nice spicy.
That's why we proof it down to 110.
Okay.
Because you get that acid, you get that tannic if you don't.
I gotcha. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. Cause I don't pick it up. It's just a nice, that sweetness hits and then that spicy, now I'm picking up the mintiness. Mm-hmm. It's funny. It's like it took it a while, but on the finish especially, it's almost like I hate when I say like mouthwashy, but when you
It's a subtle spearmint.
It is.
Just very subtle, very much so at the back. And I think when I'm thinking chocolate, I'm almost thinking mouthfeel of chocolate. That's smooth,
creamy,
like very creamy. Yeah. And then, it's
like a York peppermint patty.
Yes.
It's definitely dark chocolate.
Yeah. Yeah. Very nice. Well, guys, we're at the end of round one here. So let's take a quick break. We'll get a word from our sponsors and we'll jump back in with some more things to drink. But we'll be back in just a minute with more with Justin and Cara King from King's Family Distillery in just a minute.
Three Chord's line of whiskeys embody the spirit of creativity. The whiskey is a true collaboration between producer and composer Neil Giraldo and master blender distiller Ari Sussman. The Three Chord team of expert blenders, coopers, and sensory professionals have developed a multi-step process they called Perfectly Tuned Taste. This process begins by carefully selecting the finest bourbon and rye whiskeys from Kentucky, Tennessee, and Indiana, and then blending them together. Find out more about the whiskeys and distribution in your area at www.threechordbourbon.com.
Spirits of French Lick crafts their spirits using only the finest agricultural product that has defined character, following their motto, respect the grain. They lead the way in representing the quality of the Hoosier artisan distilling process while paying tribute to its inseparable past. By implementing best practices from those early times, combined with modern touches, Spirits of French Lick has created a truly unique place in the industry. Spirits of French Lick products are distributed throughout Indiana, Kentucky, and Missouri, and can also be purchased online through Sealbox at sealbox.com. Visit spiritsoffrenchlick.com to learn more information and make sure to follow them on Facebook and Instagram. All right, everybody, welcome back for the second round of the Bourbon Life Podcast presented by Tim Smith Spirits. I am your host, Mark, and unfortunately, my co-host, Matt, is not with me this week, but Matt has recovered. He's no longer sick, but he is at home back in Lexington, and I'm down here in beautiful, sunny Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, at King's Family Distillery, hanging out with Justin and Cara King. Welcome back, you guys.
Hey there.
I'm already drinking hand, so I'm happy.
There you go, man. I mean, at 10 o'clock in the morning, Cara, it was awesome as we were emailing and you said, well, what do you think? Could you maybe show up at 10 o'clock? I'm like, let's see. I've been doing dry January for 31 days. 10 o'clock on the 1st. Let's see. Hell yes, I can be there.
And you were here at 9:55. No, I'm kidding.
I'm here. I'm ready to drink. And yes, I am drinking. But I did have a little Prosecco. I just had a mimosa this morning because I'm like, I'm going to break this streak. It's time,
Totally get it.
But now we did 4 shows this past month in January, and I was actually tasting and spitting, which is just awful. I mean, there's nothing worse. And we did 2 of them live. So we have the producers in our studio with us, and I'm having to taste this in front of them and then spit their product out. And I know most of them are like, yeah, we do that at work too. But
yeah,
it's just kind of weird though to sit and.
You feel weird doing that because you don't want to insult them.
Exactly
but they
right.
totally I would totally understand. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, you're dry January. That's totally fine. Whatever.
Yeah.
And
then there's people like Aaron Chepanek out at Smoke Wagon. Every time I post about dry January, he's like, that's the dumbest fucking idea I've ever heard of. I'm like, thanks, Aaron. I appreciate that, man.
Thank you for your unsolicited opinion.
Oh, yeah. All right, guys. So let's talk about what we're drinking. We got something. I'm so excited about this one. Let's talk about what we got poured up for this first drink on this round.
This is honey bourbon.
Yes.
So it is a 36% rye mash bill bourbon finished in a honey barrel.
Okay.
So Justin, do you want to talk a little bit about the process?
Sure. What we do is we're actually filling barrels up with honey, rolling them around in the distillery for weeks, and dump the honey back out, and then we're filling it up with a 5-year-old 36% MGP.
So, all right. So let's talk about that process, because I've wondered about how people do a honey barrel. So you're using 53-gallon normal size barrels for this? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
That's what I thought. Because when I was down here over the summer and you pulled a sample, it was out of a full-size barrel. So how much honey does that take to put into a barrel and coat?
It takes all day.
Yeah.
There's like a forklift involved. If it's windy, everybody gets sticky. Like, it's one of those things where you're like, huh.
Yeah.
I feel like there's probably a better way to do this, but we just don't have access to it.
Or that's just not the natural way to do it. So
It's true.
we spend all the time to physically dump honey in a barrel and dump it back out. It's an interesting process for sure.
So now is that something locally sourced here, or is it something that you get somewhere else?
Yeah, Justin has a friend who, as a hobby, keeps bees.
Okay.
And so he's hooked into this whole community across East Tennessee that also keep bees.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how he got into the honey part of it.
It was a strange request, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I can get you 50 gallons of honey.
Yeah, no problem.
That's no problem."
So
not an issue. Like, okay.
Is that what it takes to do it?
I mean that's what we're doing.
Okay, so you take 50 gallons of honey and actually put it into a 53-gallon barrel first?
Yep.
Holy shit. That's a lot of honey.
Yep. And when
Sticky
it
situation.
yeah. But when it comes out, it is awesome.
Wait a second. Hold on. I've got oh man, I can't get back to my, hold on. See, I've lost all the effect. I've got a sound effect. I was going to do a sound effect for that because that was so funny. And now I can't
Thank
do
you.
it.
Oh,
There
thank
go.
you.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. So you get the honey in there. How long do you let the honey set in that barrel?
It depends.
Yeah.
If you leave the honey in too long, the barrel will dry out and fall apart.
Yeah,
because the honey will take on moisture naturally.
Okay, that's what I'd heard that somewhere. So that's something I didn't know about. That honey would actually do that. But
Yeah, honey will just dry a barrel out; it'll fall apart.
okay,
So what we do is try to just roll it around and keep it moving, so you don't have a dry place.
okay.
But every one that we fill back up always leaks.
Does
I mean,
it really?
Yeah, you always have a loss
Oh,
just
man.
because the barrel's swelling back.
Gotcha. So you have to be very careful then about how you feel and how. Is it a process? I mean, do you have to do a little bit at a time when you refill, or is it something you put it in there and just keep an eye on it?
We're just keeping an eye on it.
Yeah, that's crazy. So now the honey comes back out. So what do you do with that honey that comes back out of the barrel?
Just give it back to the beekeepers.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a bourbon. So the barrel you're putting it in, is it a new barrel?
It's a used.
It is a used. Okay. Are they bourbon barrels or are they?
Generally, what we do is dump the barrel
Oh, I got you.
So
I got you.
into a tank,
Yeah.
fill it up with honey,
Okay. That
do
makes sense.
do the aging process.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. Gosh, I should have thought that through, huh?
Oh no, I didn't know how he was going to do it when he was first
Yeah, it was a crapshoot, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just
We
like,
had-
I'm out here with a forklift. I got this crap all over me, and I'm standing out there with this big funnel, and it was a mess.
Next time you do that, let me know, because I'll bring my video camera down here and we'll just shoot a whole video.
You can probably make a reality TV show out of just that process.
So now what's the proof? This is 114, is that right?
Yeah, it is 114.6.
Okay, great. And on the nose, I mean, it's the sweetness. Man, that's something. And it's not like it comes across necessarily as like, oh, it's all honey. There's just like a very sweet aroma to it, almost like wildflowers or something.
Yes, I get like clover.
Okay, yeah.
That's kind of
like
what I get.
Yeah,
is
yeah.
That real subtle sweetness of or like you said, wildflowers.
Yeah.
Just very subtle.
Justin, what do you
This was actually done with fall honey.
think? Okay,
So it does have a different taste and appearance
okay.
than spring honey.
Gotcha. So spring honey versus fall honey, I guess it just depends on the different flowers or what's available that the bees
Correct.
are actually working at that time of the year. That makes a lot of sense. So, but yeah, this is the nose on it. But the bourbon comes through, and you said this is MGP. It's a high rye, right? 36%. So it is a high rye MGP. What's the age on the bourbon before it goes in the barrel? Or
Between 4 and 5
4
years.
and 5? Okay, and then it's in the barrel. How long do you leave it in that secondary, the honey barrel for? Just depends.
Till it tastes good.
Till-
Until it
tastes
tastes good. Honestly, I've done some at a couple weeks. I've done some at a couple months.
Okay.
It's funny. They all age differently.
Gotcha.
I've not really figured out like a method of the madness.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no set time.
Gotcha. And everything you're doing though is here on site, right? So
Right.
you're here at your place doing everything here. Nothing. You're not off site doing this. So you're just spilling the honey out in the parking lot and the forklift and everything. So let's talk about how the distillery got started. So you guys met in, what'd you say, 2013, right? When did you guys end up getting married?
We were married in fall of 2014.
Okay.
We got married in Paso Robles, California,
Oh, okay.
wine country.
Yeah, that's-
We love wine.
Okay.
That's we actually drink probably more wine than we do bourbon. But that was the first trip that we ever took, was out to Paso, and we just loved it.
Yeah.
It's so awesome out there.
Nice.
So we're riding around with, was it Ron?
Yeah.
Ron, the wine driver.
Yeah. mywinedriver.com. Just a little plug. No, what he'll do is he'll take your rental car and just drive you to all these wineries.
Seriously?
Yeah.
That's
and
a
there's
nice
how
gig.
many wineries? There's over 100 wineries now.
Oh, damn.
There's I don't know for sure, but there's a gajillion.
Yeah.
We'll just call it
That's a nice
wineries. And he's worked at a whole bunch of them, and then all of his friends have worked at them as well.
So he knows where everything is. And
Yes.
he can drive you around and you don't have to worry about
yeah, he'll take you to he'll ask you, do you like red or white first? And it's like, okay, well, we like red, and we do like some whites. So he starts at like a couple ones, and then he figures out which wines you like at those. And then that's when he determines your next stop. Like, it is so incredible. It was awesome.
it. So it's like having your own personal wine somm to drive
Yes.
you around.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Very nice.
For sure. It was really fun.
So you got married, and then you were living down here, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And you were in
Louisville.
Louisville. I love the way that you say Louisville, so you don't say Louisville.
No,
'Cause
I say it like a native.
Yeah,
Yes.
most Northerners would say Louisville. So I'm impressed.
I know a lot of people who live there from the north, and they still say Louisville, and I'm like, please
Yeah.
assimilate. Louisville.
Louisville.
Yep.
Louisville.
There's-
Yeah.
2 syllables.
That's right. Louisville.
Louisville.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I moved down here I ran my lease out,
Yeah.
and I was kind of going back and forth still. And then I kept going back and forth, and it's not that far of a drive, it's like maybe 4 hours.
Right, yeah, it's not a
and
bad
plus Bardstown's 3.5.
Sure.
Lex is 3. So it was easy for me to do that. And then after we found ourselves pregnant, it was a little more difficult to go back and forth, but it was kind of fun because after Max was born, our son Max was born, this is probably 5 years ago, I would go on all these trips up just for sales calls, and I'd become friends with all these buyers,
Yeah.
the buyers at Beam, the buyers at Sazerac, and I would take Max with me. And
Very
so
cool.
he was, and at that point in my career, I would just, give him the 5-minute report on the crop and where pricing is going. And then we'd talk for 2 hours. You know, it was just an easy way to kill an afternoon, you know, because they're just awesome people. I love the industry is incredible.
Yep.
So like I'd be like breastfeeding in the middle of like a conference or like changing the table in the middle of sales or conference
is that
table.
how you met her, Justin? No, I'm just kidding.
Basically. But yeah, so
next.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, it's such an incredible industry. I just knew that I had to be out of that side of it.
Yeah.
You know, and so we had been toying with the idea of starting a distillery. And we actually were driving by this site one day, and this space didn't have anybody in it, but it also didn't have like an available sign on it. So Justin called the property manager. He knew a couple of people who knew him, and so he got a hold of him and asked, you know, can we tour that? And he said, yeah. And so we figured out all the licensing that would need to be done and figured out all of the restrictions for this area before we really ever signed a lease. After that, you know, Justin found us a still. He, you know, and all of a sudden...
It actually came out of Lexington.
Yeah.
Oh, did it really?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So, and we just kind of went about our just starting, I guess. Like,
so that was what, 2007?
17, 18.
17, 18?
So,
Okay.
yeah, I had purchased a lot of MGP barrels as an investment.
You had?
Yeah, I had already done that
Wow.
a couple of years ago. Just...
Very smart.
I mean, it was one of those things, am I going to put it in the stock market or am I going to put it in barrels?
Yeah.
At the time, it was smarter for me to put it in barrels because I didn't know what we were going to do next.
Right.
You know, I didn't want it.
What were you doing with the barrels? Were they still at MGP? Okay, so you bought them, and they still aged them there for you.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I would just pay storage on them. So I had purchased barrels of rye specifically because I knew that, you know, bourbon was really hot, but rye too is hand in hand with it.
Yeah.
And so if we were going to start a brand, we would definitely want it to be rye heavy, which is why I did that. But I could have done any number of things. I could have started brokering barrels. I could have started brokering bulk alcohol. I just knew that I didn't want to be in the traveling situation anymore. So
so you decided to start a distillery where you get to go out and promote the brand.
Exactly. And with COVID though, it's been kind of nice because a lot of the promotion that I do is, you know, through people like yourself, like a podcast.
Sure.
Or, you know, and we'll do it over Zoom or we'll do, there's so much that can be done virtually these days. It's become so much easier.
Isn't that funny?
Out of necessity.
Isn't that funny? I mean, because I know, and we can talk about the impact of COVID and what it's done, you know, for other aspects of your business. But as far as getting access to people, I mean, for us, we started the podcast February 2020, March, our governor shut everything down. And our, you know, brilliant idea was we're going to go to all these distilleries and sit down with all these master distillers and record. And like 3 weeks later, it's like, nope, it's not going to happen.
But you pivot.
And we pivot and we find, you know, the online resource to we can record. And we got access to people that we never probably would have had access to in like to sit down like in real life like this, you know, and it was crazy how it worked out. So yeah, I mean, it's funny to say that COVID had some advantages, but it really has, I think, for and I've heard that from other distilleries too. You're not the first one that's actually said that. So that's pretty interesting. Yeah,
I mean, you flex that creativity, that marketing creativity pretty quickly if you can. Yeah. And that's kind of what we did. We just had to go from here to here. It was. So
now this place, did this used to be, and it's going to sound funny, was this the old Timber Tops office or do you know?
Before this, it was a real estate arm of Timber Tops. So Timber Tops is the cabin rental building that we are located in, and they still have an office in the middle.
Okay. All right.
And then this side of it was their real estate.
Yeah, because we used to rent from them all the time. Yeah. So we'd always have to check in down here. That's why I was like, when we came out here in the summer, I'm like, I have been here like a million times before.
And I've never seen this. Why have I never seen this before?
It's like, what's going on, man? This is kind of crazy.
Exactly.
But you're from it. I mean, this is your.
I used to live across the street.
Across the street, yeah, which is really cool, man. It's got to be. It's got to be really cool to be like, this is it. This is home, and
it's fun. You know, it's fun to say I grew up here, and it fits our story very well.
So now let's talk about the distillery. So you guys started in 2017, 2018. You had barrels. So was that the concept at the very beginning? You're like, we're going to source, because you said you had you got a still, but you guys source your stuff. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was what we based just the first part of it on. And this really was never meant to get bigger than like 6 or 7 SKUs.
Okay.
It was never meant to
Wait a second.
I know.
As
We have like
as
20.
I'm standing here looking around your distillery, and I'm like, we got 6 different SKUs right here that we're drinking. So
Right?
like,
Well, it was never meant, it was supposed to be kind of like just a hobby for me.
Oh, okay.
Something,
I got you.
something to replace the income that I was leaving, you know?
Right.
Or something for me to do during the day, really.
Yeah.
It's just, I didn't want to, I'm not a stay-at-home person. So being a stay-at-home anything would have driven me crazy within the first 2 weeks. So when we started this, it was, the first thing I had was our vodka. And our vodka is like super clean. Justin messes with the, you know, we get the best GNS that we possibly can. We proof it down to 80. And then it's just a super clean, super easy drinking vodka.
Okay.
And we had that just for 2 weeks. Like the first 2 weeks we were open, all I had was vodka, like not even flavored vodka.
Just vodka.
Straight up vodka. Now, luckily, 2 things were happening. First, it was a very warm first 2 weeks of October. This is October of 2018.
Okay.
So what do you want to drink when it's that hot out? Vodka.
Vodka.
Right? Vodka soda, vodka Diet Coke, vodka whatever. So, and then there unfortunately was a hurricane at the Gulf, but this is also during fall break for a lot of northern states. They don't want to be up north, and they can't go to Florida. So they come to the Smoky Mountains. Now, I had a group of moms from Michigan who, I mean, I think they ended up taking home like 3 cases of our just vodka because they're like, we've been at Dollywood with our kids and we weren't able to, and I'm like,
yeah, been there, done that.
girl,
yeah.
I feel you.
Yeah,
Like,
uh-huh.
I 100% understand. So they were, I mean, they had to get a cabin instead of going to Florida, and it was a whole mess. But they looked at me like I was like their savior. Like, oh, there's vodka. I thought this town was dry. I'm like, I'm a distillery. So
That's right.
So yeah, so for the first 2 weeks, we just had that. And then we just slowly but surely added SKUs. We had a blended whiskey that's very similar to like Seagram 7 or Crown or something like that. And then we had our bourbon and our rye. And then we started branching into flavored whiskeys.
Okay.
We are in Pigeon Forge. It is the moonshine capital of the world.
Right.
People like things that are flavored. And I luckily am married to the man who basically
I was going to say,
invented it.
I mean, it's not like, this is like right in his wheelhouse, man.
Exactly.
So
So we started playing with that, and we came out with an apple whiskey. We came out with a ginger vodka, which was actually a funny bet between the two of us. He didn't think it would sell, and it's always a top 5 seller. It's always a top 5 seller. It's delicious.
That's awesome.
And then,
a lot, Justin. I mean, come on, man.
The things that I like to drink, most people don't.
I got you.
I want something 150 proof, and I'm different.
Yeah,
I get it. For sure. But yeah, and slowly but surely we built our brand. We added a couple of other flavors. We added some more barreled SKUs that I was picking up here and there. You know, I buy from MGP directly, brokers, this, that, the. I mean, I'll buy from anybody who has good whiskey for sale.
Sure.
I will look at it. I will taste it. And if I think it'll sell, I don't even have to like it. I don't care.
Yeah, I get it. No, I mean, that's a smart business because it's not necessarily going to be what your tastes are. I mean, it's what the consumer's tastes are and what you guys can make with that. And you guys have obviously been successful at that. I mean, Justin, you've obviously been successful at the prior position with Old Smoky, obviously, because that brand is huge.
It took a learning curve because the things that I wanted to drink there, people didn't want.
Yeah, right.
And I sat down to myself one day, and I'll never really forget what I did with that, but I'm like, I just got to put stuff out there I'm not proud of.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that...
That's got to be tough.
It's a tough position to be in, but people loved it. Things would go to #1 seller every day. And it's like, it's not for me, but it's for somebody.
Yeah. That's interesting. I never thought about that, man, as a master distiller, because you got things you love and what you want to put out there and like your babies. But then it's like, what's the consumer want to drink, though? That's really who it's for. So that's an interesting concept, man. I never thought about that before.
Yeah, it's an interesting position to put yourself in. It's like most people that were a former master distiller want to make all their product, and I don't want to do that.
Right.
Because what everybody loves, I can't produce and beat it.
Right.
So what am I going to do? I'm going to buy their stuff and finish it how I want to finish it.
Yeah. And you guys have done a great job. And speaking of which, we should probably talk about the taste on this one. I don't think I did that, but the honey does kind of come through on this one. Just the sweetness, and the sweetness lingers. The high rye, that spiciness from that rye comes in too, and that combination. And again, I think I said almost like a flower on the palate. It's almost like a brown sugar sweetness. It's like, holy crap. This is now. Is this a blend, or is this a single barrel as well that goes in? That goes into the honey barrel. So single barrel again. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the mash bill and the honey lend well to each other. Like you said, you get that brown sugar. Like it's a really subtle molasses. I get on that back end.
Yeah, and it's not. It's funny because when you talk about a honey bourbon or honey flavor, whatever, some people think, oh, it's going to be like some type of weird artificial. I mean, couldn't be any further from the truth on this one, man. This is such a unique product. So.
Oh, for sure.
Very good. Well, we should probably move on to the next thing that we have poured up here.
Next, I have a wheated bourbon. It's like the hottest thing right now on the market is wheated bourbon.
And this one, this was at 114.6 is what we just drank, right? So,
Justin, where's this one going to be? Because this we pulled directly from the barrel. We just got some barrels in.
We've got a beaker. We've got a test tube. We got to test. This is experimental bourbon that we're drinking here. This is awesome.
Exactly. Well, and we didn't have any barrel proof wheated currently, but we like to taste this one at barrel proof.
Gotcha.
It sells really well at 100 proof in our store, but right now, out in the market, we go with cask strength.
Oh, okay.
So this will be somewhere in the neighborhood. The last one was about 117, right?
Yeah, just looking at it and looking at the legs, I'm going to guess 116.
He's really
Is he
weirdly
good at
that.
Yeah.
He used to sit and we would go to a wine dinner once a month, and he would look at the sommelier, and the sommelier would ask him to guess what the ABV was of the wine, and he was always within like 1/10 of a percent.
That's crazy, man.
It's one of those
You're like
things.
those guys on Moonshiners. They grab that thing and shake it around in the bubbles, and they're like, "Hey, yep, that's about 105 proof."
I know, exactly. He just looks at it, looks at the meniscus, looks at the legs, and he can just tell you. It's like, oh, okay, that's a cool party trick.
Yeah. So this one's coming in. So this is the wheated bourbon. What does it? Is this 120 as well from MGP?
It's barreled at 120. This is 5 years old.
Okay.
It's a 45% wheat.
Okay.
51 corn, 4 malt, so it's super high wheat.
Super high wheat, yeah, because most of them are
in the 20s.
Yeah, that's really high for wheat. So
the other thing that I love that MGP does is their low malt mash bills.
Okay.
Yeah, Kentucky bourbon generally has higher than 5% malt.
Right.
Whereas MGP, unless it's an actual malt whiskey or unless it's intentional, like a 51 corn 49 malt or something like that.
Right.
Weird that they do. They come in under 5%, and they just use it simply for the enzymatic activity and not at all for the flavor profile.
So now this is the wheated bourbon. I see the bottle over there. But now, are those bottles? Did you say they're 100 proof?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's a little bit more accessible to our general consumer that comes into our store if they like a wheated bourbon or if they're starting to get into bourbons. We do get a lot of people who are starting to get into bourbons because we have such a wide array of tasting options.
Sure.
You know, like I said, we have the blended, we have the ryes, we have a couple of different bourbons at any given time.
And that goes back to, I would never proof this down to 100.
Right.
But that's what our consumer.
That's what the consumer wants, right? So that's what you got to do.
Yeah. What I would do with this is hit it with like 0.5% water just to open it up.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Is what I would like to do, but that's just not what they want.
Right. Yeah. No, this is really good. So what do you guys pick up on the nose on this one?
It's so subtle. I mean, I just pick up subtlety.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not one.
It's almost like, you talk about wheat whiskey and you talk about wheat bourbons and they're soft. I mean, it's almost like a softness to the nose on this one as well that comes through. It's just, you still get those bourbon notes off of it, but there's just kind of a softness that comes through.
And I actually tasted this and did an arm pump because that barrel is awesome.
Well, I saw you do. I was like, I thought you were giving her a thumbs up because she's like, people come to the store. I'm like, yeah, come on in.
It's because this is the first time I've tasted this barrel. So,
yeah, these just came in on Friday. So.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, this is
I'm just like, this is excellent.
Yeah, and we're almost at the end of round 2, so I'm just going to jump to the taste on this, and the taste on this is pretty amazing. I mean, this is, and it's like, I'm thinking, it's not the leftover honey. I mean, this is sweet. This is the wheat makes it so sweet, but I don't know that I've ever had a wheated bourbon that has this much, just that sweet profile to it.
It's got sweet caramel.
Yes.
A hint of leather, which I like.
Yeah.
Like the fresh cut leather smell you can kind of taste.
Yeah. And this was what you said, like 5, you think?
It's over 5.
5, okay.
Yeah.
Cara, you're deep in thought.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of wheated bourbons. So every time I taste it, I think it's so much earthier than what I prefer.
Gotcha.
That's all I can really think about. So sorry.
No, that's
I'll
okay.
tap out on this one.
No, that's fine because but that sweetness just comes through as the initial on the palate initially, and it just goes all the way through, to the finish. The sweetness just lingers. No tannic effect on this one at all. No drying effect, but my tongue still has a little bit of a tingle to it, which is really kind of cool. I like that. And it's almost like a spiciness from a rye, but obviously there's no rye in this, but I just love that when you get that little bit of a tingle on your tongue from
Yeah, wheated bourbons generally need to have a little bit more proof to them just because they do drink so soft.
Right.
That's why we proof like that. The lowest I would ever go is that 100 proof that we have in store. But I think they definitely drink better at cask strength or in like the over 110.
Yeah. So what do you think this one was at, Justin?
116 is my guess, and I'll proof it here. We'll see.
You can put it in the show notes.
But again, I mean, in terms of drinkability, at 116, this is still something. You're not a big wheated bourbon fan, but even approachability, drinkability. I mean, to me, because I love high proof stuff anyway. But still, at 116, it's not something. When you take that sip, it doesn't burn you up.
I get custard. Sorry,
custard. Okay.
I've been trying to point it
Pinpoint it. Yeah.
I've been trying to pinpoint it. Yeah,
Very
I get
nice.
custard.
All I can think about is drinking a glass of this after 5.
Very, very
What do they
nice.
say? It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
I was going to say it's noon, right? So we're doing pretty good. Well, guys, to it. Let's wrap it up on this second session, and we'll come back. But 2 thumbs up on this one. Goodness gracious, this is pretty amazing.
It's excellent.
Yeah, it really is. Very, very good stuff here. So let's take a break, and we'll be back with more with Justin and Cara King from King's Family Distillery in just a minute. Located just east of Lake Tahoe and the Sierra Nevada mountains, Frey Ranch Distillery was founded by 5th-generation Nevada farmers. Our grain-to-glass bourbon is made using a 4-grain mash bill, including a non-GMO corn, rye, wheat, and barley, all of which is 100% sustainably grown on the 1,500-acre Frey Ranch. And our commitment to excellence shows with a recent gold medal win at the 2020 Whiskies of the World and USA Spirits competitions. Find out more at www.freyranch.com.
The Stave Restaurant is a bourbon lover's paradise right here in the heart of bourbon country. Located at 5711 McCracken Pike in Millville, Kentucky, between Castle and Key and Woodford Reserve, Chef Kyle Klatka prepares amazing food each day that features an elevated Kentucky-inspired cuisine. With a full-service bar, great bourbon flights, and signature cocktails, the Stave is the perfect place to catch up with friends after a fun-filled day of touring the local distilleries. Be sure to check them out online at thestavekentucky.com or at Instagram and Facebook at The Stave Kentucky.
All right, everybody, welcome back for round 3 of the Bourbon Life Podcast presented by Tim Smith Spirits. I'm your host, Mark, and I am flying solo today down in beautiful Pigeon Forge, Kentucky. Oh, man. It is February 1st and dry January is over. And yes, I've been drinking today. So I'm in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee with Cara and Justin King from King's Family Distillery. Welcome back, you guys.
I've still got a drink in hand.
Exactly.
Hey, thanks for sticking around. Of course, it is your place that I'm at, so you really didn't have much of an option. Like, you really couldn't leave. You could have kicked me out, I guess, but
You're lucky enough that we let you stay.
I appreciate that. So yes, I am drinking for the first time in 31 days, and it's becoming apparent.
All good.
Yeah, it's great, and you guys have some great stuff. I've really enjoyed it so far. So let's talk about, because this round is going to be kind of different. We've got two things poured up. So let's talk about Justin, Cara, whoever wants to talk about what we got poured up here.
So we have two glasses poured side by side. Same distillate, just one is 6 months old, one is 15 years.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for you to try these.
Okay.
Because they are so drastically different. It's unreal.
So which one would you suggest that we start with?
Start with a 6 month old.
Okay.
It's a product we put out called Middle Creek Moonshine.
Okay. Because we are on
Middle Creek.
And we're on Upper Middle Creek Road. Or where is the whole road actually Upper Middle Creek, or is it just Middle Creek?
It's Upper Middle Creek.
Okay.
We also have
we
have Lower Middle Creek.
Okay.
And then regular Middle Creek. We're in Appalachia.
Yeah.
So
not so Upper Middle Creek, sort of lower,
and
maybe.
There are lots of roads where like the name will change 3 times in 6 miles, and you're just like, wait, what?
Where
like,
am I?
I don't know. It was a lot to get acclimated here.
Hey, I'm from Eastern Kentucky, so I understand this. But so Middle Creek Moonshine, named after pretty much the location where we are on Middle Creek.
Correct.
So is the creek, that's out back, right? That's Middle Creek, I'm assuming, obviously. Yeah, so duh. All right, so we'll start with that. This one comes in at 131.
131 proof. We do add a touch of water to this.
Oh, you do? Okay.
A lot of these barrels are coming in about 137, 138
okay.
on average. So the water definitely brings out a giant butterscotch note in this.
Okay. So now when this is moonshine. So what's in the mash bill though for this moon? Can you talk about that? Or
yeah, it's a 98% corn.
Oh, okay.
2% malt.
Okay.
It's distilled to 189 proof originally.
Wow.
We bring it back to 140 and put it in a used bourbon barrel.
Okay. So it's in a used bourbon barrel, and that's how you guys get it at 140, and then you prove it down to the 131. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So nose wise, what do you guys pick up on this? See, I always ask Matt. That's my thing. It's like Matt's always my guy. I'm like, what do you pick up on the nose, Matt? So since Matt's not here, you guys get.
It's us. It's cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
You got it.
There you go. Smoky. I get.
Yeah, it's very smoky. Justin, here. We've gotten to the point we do have to work later today, so now we're sharing samples of these super high proof things. So.
I don't blame you. Yeah, it's like
I get smoke, I get butterscotch.
Yeah, like a Werther's original butterscotch.
Yes.
Yeah, that comes through, and that's kind of crazy. So it's 98% corn. So it's like, well, I mean that's higher than like mellow corn, right? Because it's like 95, I think. So this is 98 corn, 2% malted barley in a used bourbon barrel for 6 months.
And a lot of these bourbon barrels are 10 plus years old.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
We actually had one a few months ago that was in a Austin Nichols barrel.
Really?
So it was 18 years old, and then, you know, it was super butterscotchy.
Yeah, this is butterscotch. When you say butterscotch, and the funny thing is, at 131, I would have just expected or anticipated that I would have given it a nose and just been like, wow, that's like all alcohol, but it's not. I mean, at all. So what makes that happen, Justin?
So where it's distilled to such a high proof, a lot of the congeners are pulled out of it. So it's just a very clean alcohol before it's barrel aged. And what that does is it almost tricks your palate into thinking it's 100 proof versus the 131 because there's not a lot of stuff in there to mess with your palate.
Okay, I'm going to say this, and you guys are going to think, shit, he's drunk. He's not had anything in 31 days. But I've started drinking tequila more recently, just because, not just tequila, but añejos and extra, right? And they have this quality of almost like kind of like a pepperiness or something on the nose. There's just like a unique flavor. And I almost actually pick up a little bit of that on this nose. And I know that sounds kind of weird.
To me, this smells and tastes a lot like the Casal Azul, if you've had it.
Clase Azul.
Clase Azul,
yeah.
sorry.
Okay.
So I drink a lot of tequila also.
Okay.
Totally. I did not pick that up the last time I had this, but yeah, it does. It has that smoky, almost like sugary note a little bit.
So I'm not off base. You're not just saying it to be nice, right?
That's why I like it so much. I think is
okay. All right.
I'm big into the vanilla forward tequilas, such as like the Ron Fulano. Some of the other ones that I've totally drank at home.
Yeah, we could sit and talk about alcohol and liquor brands and different spirits all day. So, I mean, not just our stuff. So, we're just fans.
All right, so I just went in for a taste on this one because I'd not tasted it yet, and it's like drinking a liquid marshmallow to me.
Yes, like a good toasted marshmallow. And I get so much Werther's Original. They aren't sponsoring this podcast, but maybe they should.
Maybe they should. Werther's, if you're listening. But yeah, I mean, marshmallow, that toasted marshmallow. Yeah. Is that?
Yeah, right. That's totally accurate. And that's what I was telling you. I drink a ton of this stuff, and it's 6 months aged.
That's crazy.
There's nothing to it.
And again, the drinkability, we've talked about that on all your products. The fact that this is 131 proof, most people would be like, no, not going to do it.
For sure, yeah. If you like spirits, you will like this.
Yeah,
for sure. That's easy. I
guess it does have probably a little bit more kick to it than the 100 proof, obviously. But still, even at 131, it doesn't set your mouth on fire. It doesn't burn your esophagus. I guess what people would call the Kentucky hug or whatever. I don't even get that off of this. In the back of my throat, I do get a nice burn a little bit.
A little tongue tingle. But nothing more than that.
Nothing off-putting at all. So, but just like liquid marshmallow. I mean, that's the only way I can describe that is like a toasted liquid marshmallow. That's really cool. So, Justin, you talked about how you guys proof things down, but you got kind of a unique process that you use. Can you talk about that?
I'll go into it a little bit. We're on well water here. And it's a great starting point because we can filter and treat the water to really tailor each spirit. And by doing that and having the ability to do that and not taking chemicals out of city water,
right?
It's a huge advantage as a distiller. I'm not distilling anything in here. We're sourcing. So, water is very important to us. And to be able to manipulate the water or make the water what we want it to add to the spirits is a big deal.
Sure.
And that's the reason why we get a lot of these super smooth spirits is how we're blending the water and paying attention to what the acid levels are.
So that's what you're doing. You're going in checking acid levels and making sure that that's going to be where you want it to be. And
yeah, I mean, a lot of the water that we're running in here is zero total dissolved solids. So there's nothing in it. It's pure.
Wow. So that's coming straight out of a well?
Yep.
That's really impressive because I don't say most, but my experience sometimes with well water has been, it's like you might get a little sulfur, you might get a little rotten egg smell off of it or whatever.
And that totally happens. Here, the water's brought in, it runs through an RO process, an iron filter process to get rid of that sulfury smell because we do have that not so good water sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's all processed and taken out.
Yeah. I mean, people from Eastern Kentucky, Eastern Tennessee understand when you say well water and the fluctuations you get, but people outside of those areas may not understand what that means, Yeah,
it's limestone. It's just like the filter process of all the Kentucky distilleries and what they deal with.
Yeah.
We deal with it here too. But the water is a very good point for us because of how clean we can make it.
That's great, man. And I just can't get over this moonshine.
I know, right? Like this is probably one of the higher awards that we've gotten. This was double gold.
Double gold at San Francisco.
Yeah, at San Francisco World Spirits last year.
Yeah.
And he actually got kind of mad at me because I'm the one who enters things into all the things.
Yeah.
And he didn't want me to enter the moonshine. He's like, I don't want to have a moonshine in there. I'm like, this is that good though, so I kind of have the final say. But.
What was the thought about that? I mean, Justin, was it something you're just like, again, this isn't something necessarily that
I'll put it to you this way. I swore I would never put anything in a jar again.
I gotcha.
And here I am.
Yeah, putting stuff in jars.
I put what I thought was amazing in a jar.
Yeah.
So I took myself on and said, you know what, I'm going to put something out there that I like.
Yeah.
And that's what we have.
Yeah, that's I'm going to leave here with the jar of this. So the other thing we have poured up, though, this is the 15-year-old version, and this is your King's Single Barrel Select Whiskey. So you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so it is a similar mash bill. It's 98 corn, 2 malt.
Okay.
And then it's same distillation process, but it is aged for 15 years in a used barrel.
Okay. And it's MGP?
This
Is that
one's
right?
an MGP product.
Okay.
Yes.
And they age it?
Yes.
Okay. And then you guys buy the barrels and you
Yeah.
rebottle it. Yeah.
Yeah. And, we bought, it's just so good. It's so good. And like, you can't, it's even better than the 131. And the 131's spectacular in my opinion. It's young. Yeah. You can taste a little youth on it on the first one, but this one, what are you getting on it?
I get like on the palate. Well, I didn't talk about the nose at all.
It's okay. Your sidekick's not here.
It's like, Matt, where are you, man? When I need you, right? Nose wise, it noses. You kind of get that oakiness. You kind of get almost like a bourbony kind of nose off of it. Mm-hmm. The corn, it doesn't come. 15 years in a barrel, you're going to lose that corn. You're not going to pick that up. But at 140 proof? Is that right?
Yep.
You don't pick that up either.
No,
I
you
would
don't
not-
get that tingle.
No, not at all. Going just to nose it, I wouldn't say that's 140 proof. On the palate, I'll have to come back on that one. So let's talk about your glass, your bottles. You guys got some really cool bottles. They're like wine bottles, kind of BTAC looking. What was the decision behind that? Did you make that decision?
I did.
All right.
While we were looking, when we went to some of these trade shows, and I'm well known at a lot of these trade shows. I've been going to them since 2009, 2010.
Yeah.
I know all the people. Justin and I both do. When we were looking for glass, we just wanted to find something that if one supplier didn't have it, we could go to any number of other suppliers that would have it. Might have to pay up a little bit for spot pricing, but it is what it is. You just, if you don't have a bottle, you can't sell your stuff.
Sure.
So that was the thinking behind the bottle that we chose. It's a very well used bottle. You'll find a lot of brands use this same bottle. You can dress it up, you can dress it down, whatever. But right now, I'm sure a lot of people, and I've been seeing a lot on the Facebook groups, the glass shortage, and it's not necessarily a shortage. It's a supply and demand. Supply and demand are so wonky right now. What you have is manufacturers who are getting a premium for their glass from whomever. It's not just the spirits industry.
Right.
Just think of how many things are made of glass.
Right.
So if their capacity is X, a lot of X is being eaten up by perhaps other things. Their line time is being taken by or purchased by other people.
Right.
So you may not have as much glass available just to buy on what's called the spot market. Justin, do you have any comments about that part or anything to add?
Yeah, it's just, the spirits industry is growing,
Yeah.
and a lot of glass is not made domestically anymore. They're making things in these glass plants like pickle jars and different things of that nature. So a lot
Things
of
that
our
they can make just as much money on, but yeah, he's right. It's pickle jars. Like I said, think about what all comes in this glass. So domestic glass, it's not that there's no capacity anymore. It's that capacity is being eaten up by something else. Somebody who's going to pay more, or they are going to guarantee that their line will stay running for the next 6 years, or, they'll buy into the future too.
Sure.
So for people like us, or smaller distilleries, what you're seeing is a lot of international glass.
Okay.
So, and it comes in by the container load, 40-foot containers on ships overseas. So you'll get it. There's a little made in South America, but not a whole lot. Some made in Europe, but not a whole lot. The majority of it is in Asia. So that's India, China. And in India and China, you're dealing with fluctuating tariffs. You're dealing with ocean freight, which is huge. Ocean freight is, right now, I think Justin looked last year to this year, it's up on average 140%.
Wow.
So that's, and what is that? That's just a function of, supply and demand of container ships and,
Sure.
and containers.
Containers, container ships, fuel can impact that as well. Global disruptions such as what's happening in
right.
I mean, it's such a web and so interconnected. It's not just, and then greenfielding a glass plant in the United States would take how much money? And then you have to find the labor to run it, and then you have to find the line time, and then you know what I mean. So people aren't willing to go out on a limb and just build another glass plant.
Right,
You know what I mean?
I mean, and another thing to add to this is the label that's on the bottle. We've had trouble getting the paper that we use.
Yeah.
And it's just things that people don't think about.
So now, I mean, is this COVID related, do you think? I mean, or is it more beyond?
It's beyond that. What it is it's like COVID started it, and you'll see it all across, not just in the liquor industry, but just in getting things to people in general.
Right.
You're finding all of these weaknesses in our supply and demand chains, or in our supply chains. So COVID exposed it, but it's always been there. We've just been teetering on the brink.
I gotcha.
In my opinion.
So this kind of pushed us over the edge.
Yeah.
And now everybody's seeing the impact of it. So
Exactly. And you can blame it on COVID all you want, but the problem's always been there. We've just been able to gloss over it.
Gotcha. So now in terms of COVID, have you seen, we talked about kind of some of the advantages earlier, which is kind of weird to say, but I mean, disadvantages. Was there anything that you guys felt from the COVID, was there any impact you guys saw?
Nothing but increase in our growth.
Really? Okay.
In the beginning, like you said, you started this podcast like right at the beginning of right as, and, I'm sure you felt that pit in your stomach, like, oh my goodness, what is going to happen? There's no playbook. There's nothing. You have to think on your feet. You have to, figure it out. So for us, we were lucky enough to be in the location where we are, where Tennessee was not as strict regarding capacity levels and all of that stuff, right? They weren't as strict. We took as many precautions as the CDC recommended and still recommends. But we also take into account the fact that we are a tourist industry, and that, I'm not going to get in a fight with someone over a mask. I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm not.
And we had the busiest year we ever had last year.
Yeah.
We saw 15 million visitors.
Because COVID made people drink.
Yes, exactly. Well, and we were one of the only places in the United States through 2020 and 2021 that had very little restrictions on visitation, on capacities, et cetera. So we
came down here, I think 3 or 4 times last year.
Exactly. Exactly. That's how we met. So, and it was, it is,
I get it.
Hindsight is 2020. All the cliches.
I think a lot of our forward thought helped us. We were able to get glass.
Sure.
Yeah. When we saw all of this starting to happen in Wuhan in December, January, February 1920, we got on it. We got as much glass as we possibly could.
Yeah.
We knew that was going to be the issue, because that was starting to be the issue in general because of how much glass is actually made in China.
Sure.
So we hopped on it. We reserved, pallets of glass, paid through the nose, but still we were able to keep people employed, and we were able to keep our doors open and things in bottles and stuff to sell.
Yeah. So now in terms of your barrel, you talked about some single barrels and groups that buy barrels. So can you talk about that? Can you talk about a single barrel program that you guys have?
Yeah.
Either one of you.
Yeah, no, Justin usually heads it up because he's usually the point person.
I got you.
Yeah, we love to do Ryeconic barrel picks.
Yeah.
That's our favorite. They're 6 years old and they're only going to grow older.
Nice.
We love those. We're doing some wheated barrel picks, which we tried one earlier. Super tasty.
Yes, we did.
I would love to get into doing some honey Ryeconics and some honey toasted, or Ryeconic toasted, I'm sorry, picks. But we're pushing them out there.
So how does that go about? If somebody was interested in doing that, what would they do, or how could they do that?
The way we did the last one, I'm talking specifically about the Murfreesboro group. Mm-hmm. You did that, so you talk about how we got that out.
Yeah, really, it was we had a group that wanted to do a tasting, so we sent three different products out, really, and we said we have this many bottles of this many bottles of this, and this many bottles of this. If you want to reserve it, we'll work with your local liquor store or whatever liquor store you guys like to work through. Right. Since we are distributed in Middle Tennessee as well, we told them, here's your rep, and we'll do everything on our end to get done what we need to get done. And here's how, and we have someone in the group who works with the liquor store. So we're just working hand in hand, really. The only hindrance I would say to doing it anywhere else would be if we don't have a distributor or if it's a big enough group and they have someone in distribution that they can go through, they can contact us, contact them, make the introduction, and we'll get it done.
Sure. And most of the stuff you're putting out single barrel anyway, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, but that's a great opportunity. And this moonshine, I've almost finished it off.
It's so good.
It is. So would you ever do any like single barrels of this? Would people want that or not?
Do you want it?
I mean, goodness gracious, dude.
For sure. I mean, okay.
Sure.
Yeah, because we do that in barrels. We do it single barrel. We had one 6 months ago that was just crazy good.
Yeah. It's funny because I keep going back to that whole tequila thing. And, but that marshmallowy sweetness and then like this tequila finish that, and I'm going to say, even though the single barrel whiskey is 15 years old, I think I like the 6-month-old moonshine better.
Yep.
That's awesome. You are the first person to have ever said that, and I love it and respect it.
Okay.
100%.
All right. Well, I mean, I don't want to, it's not that this is bad, but I'm like, the 15-year-old, it's delicious in its own right. Mm-hmm. But man,
we have so many, I guess, bourbon friends of mine who love the moonshine.
Yeah.
They come in here and buy it, and they're just like, every time they're in here buying whatever finish we've done, they always take a bottle of that home.
I can understand why. I mean, because that's delicious. So let's talk about like availability, where people can find you guys. So,
all right,
Cara,
right now
you're up, Cara.
Ta-da! Best way to get to us would be if you're in Pigeon Forge, just come by the store. You can taste everything that we do.
Upper Middle Creek.
Off of Upper Middle Creek Road.
Yep, there you go.
Just come straight to the store. A lot of times Justin or myself are in here, and we're more than willing to chit chat about all the things that having to do with spirits.
Yeah.
And then aside from that, we are distributed in East Tennessee, Chattanooga region, Middle Tennessee, and West Tennessee. We just started making headway into Georgia. We'll be available in New York and New Jersey. And then we're also starting to expand our footprint beyond that. But you can purchase us online. So if you are a state where you usually can get liquor shipped to you, it is more than likely that we will be able to ship to you as well. And you can find us on our website, kingsfamilydistillery.com.
Nice. Because I'm in Kentucky, and I bought the Honey Barrel bourbon, and then also the Honey Cask Finished Ryeconic, and got that shipped to me. So
Very cool.
I got it. Yeah. So I bought it. So even in Kentucky, I was able to get that shipped to me. So that's good.
It's awesome. I love it. Yeah. I love to hear that.
Yeah. And attesting to the fact that you guys are always willing to hang out with people, because my wife and I came in here in August. We were down here, and you guys just both happened to be here. And we started, but you guys didn't know me from Adam. You didn't know the Bourbon Life, whatever. And we just started talking and hanging out. And Justin was pulling some samples and stuff. So, yeah, it was a good time. It was a great time. I had a great time. But, yeah, so if you're down here in this area, definitely stop by and see you guys. There's no question about it. So we're at the end of round 3. Before we wrap it up, though, anything like future-wise, what's going on with you guys? Anything coming up that you want to share?
I'm getting looked at. Sorry. We look at each other like,
do you want to share it? Do you not want to share it?
No. We're always coming out with new products. Okay. If you follow us on our Facebook page, Instagram page, both of those are great ways to keep in touch with us.
Okay.
We also have a newsletter. I only put out maybe 2 newsletters a month. And that usually has like a coupon code, a little bit of news here and there, where we're going, what we're doing. we are coming out with, we're kind of stepping outside the box or our little bourbon box and coming out with some flavored rums this year.
Okay.
Just because, you know, we've got all the more traditional stuff. Let's see what else we can do.
Sure.
Have Justin flex his flavoring muscles. And we just came out with one called Fancy Lady. And it is like a banana-y, caramel-y, vanilla.
Nice.
Like, it's so good. That's been a number 1 or number 2 seller for the last week. So that's been good.
Okay.
And then on the bourbon / whiskey end of it, we are always coming out with new things. So
Yeah.
just
something I'm going to add here, and I've already poured this. We have a bourbon that's finished in 3 different barrels.
yes. Okay, so it's
And I
new
did
charred
taste
white
that.
oak. Oh yeah, wasn't it good?
Oh my God.
New
Yeah.
charred white oak, and then a maple barrel, and then a toasted barrel.
Yeah.
So 1, 2, 3. It's like,
It's pretty insane.
oh,
It's
Yeah.
awesome.
it's all flavor.
Yeah. So once we get off recording, I'm going to go
We'll
back
be
and
getting back into
go
that
back
barrel,
and
won't we?
revisit that. Yeah, just a little bit.
I love it.
I wanted to kind of pace myself a little bit. So
Exactly. You are 31 days dry. So
Exactly right. Well, guys, I appreciate you joining me today. I appreciate the opportunity to come down here, hang out with you guys at your place. This has been a lot of fun. It's great to see you guys again, no doubt about it. And we are the Bourbon Life Podcast presented by Tim Smith Spirits. You guys can find us online, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you want to find us. All the podcasting platforms. Check us out. If you feel so inclined, leave us a review. We'd love that. If you have any questions, you can email us at thebourbonlife@gmail.com. And with that said, I'm going to wrap it up, send us home with our tagline, which is, may your glasses always be full, and may you keep on living the bourbon life.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the Bourbon Life Podcast. Our mission at the Bourbon Life is simple: to share our passion for all things bourbon with you every week. And we'd really love to hear your thoughts on how we're doing. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at The Bourbon Life. You can also contact us by email at thebourbonlife@gmail.com. And you can always find us on your favorite podcast platform. If you have a moment, we'd love it if you would rate us and give us a review. So until next week, we hope your glass is always full and that you keep on living the bourbon life.
Founded by J.W. McCulloch in 1885, Green River was known as the Whiskey Without Regrets. DSP KY10 was known for making some of the best whiskey in Kentucky, but fire, prohibition, multiple owners, and a gradual decline over many years eventually led to the demise of the brand. But last year, Green River celebrated the revival of Green River Distilling Company at its original home in Owensboro, Kentucky, and the team at Green River is proud to bring the same commitment to the best ingredients, craftsmanship, and tradition today, led by 8th generation distiller and Kentuckian Jacob Call. We encourage you to come and experience a special part of bourbon heritage in Owensboro. Find out more at www.greenriverdistilling.com. Whether it's rye, sour mash Tennessee whiskey, or bourbon, Davidson Reserve has something delicious to offer any whiskey lover's palate. Pick up a bottle of one of our award-winning Davidson Reserve whiskeys from your local retailer today. Visit www.davidsonreserve.com for more information. And cheers to drinking local.